Welcome everyone. Joe with ECRM here in Dallas at our personal care, healthcare, baby and infant, and contract manufacturing sessions. And with me is Mitch from Radians, and he has a very interesting history with ECRM because over the past 20 years, he's come as a buyer, as a seller, and also as a buyer for contract manufacturing, which is a little bit different than the previous two. So what we're going to talk about today is his perspective on each of those roles and some best practices as buyers, as sellers, when it comes to ECRM. Because you must have been to, what, dozens of sessions?
Yeah, they reset my badge every time. Normally, it only shows 5, but I've probably been to 40 to 50 ECRM events over the course of my career.
Wow. So he knows the deal from both sides. So, but before we get into all of that, tell everybody a little bit about Radiance and why you're here and what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's great. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Radiance Living is really 2 organizations in one. We have a non-wovens wipes manufacturing plant, dead center of New York. We're really focused on domestically sourcing quality non-wovens, converting them into things like baby wipes, makeup remover wipes, personal care and incontinence wipes. And we use primarily North America sourced. 100% non-wovens are non-plastics, highly sustainable products. Where really sustainability is at the core of who we are. In Chicago, just outside O'Hare, we have a pods making plant. Think of a Tide Pod or a Cascade. We do it all our products, none of it's under label. So we always do contract manufacturing or private label. We're making about 1 billion pods a year in our plant in just outside of O'Hare. And we're doing everything in the laundry space, in the dish space, personal care space. Imagine using a pod to wash your hair or wash your body. Also things like you would never even imagine. You put a pod in a Hoover machine when you're cleaning your shampooing your carpeting or something like that. So pods are becoming ubiquitous and they're everywhere. We also do some powder blending in that plant. We're getting into tablets in that plant. So we're really innovating, and we're innovating in personal care, healthcare, cleaning, and especially sustainable solutions that reduce the amount of trucks on the road, that reduce the amount of plastics in our garbage. We're really focusing on those kind of solutions.
That's a really big deal. I mean, both for the environment, but also for supply chain efficiency too.
Absolutely. We're working on some state-of-the-art new packaging. We were one of the first to get out of the tubs when you put your pods in, and we went into a pouch that could transport flat, taking 80% of the plastic out. We're working on some packaging that is 100% recyclable for makeup remover wipes, for our pods everywhere, paper. Curbside recycling is very much where we're going today.
Gotcha. And so you span a lot of categories, including all 3 here.
Yes.
And the contract manufacturing. So
Yes.
are you here as a buyer for the contract manufacturing, or are you here as a contract manufacturer?
I'm largely here as a contract manufacturer,
Okay.
but I get so much out of interacting with some of the other sellers as well. I mean, I just came from a conversation with a branded company. And mind you, we're private label and co-manufacturing. They're a 100% branded company. And they're like, you know what, we've been thinking about getting into wipes, right? And they're here as a seller, we're here as a seller, but just a conversation over breakfast is probably lent itself to a future business meeting and a really good opportunity for both our organizations, them to add a capability and us to add a customer.
And I see that a lot. And you know what? We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that when we talk about best practices. But yeah, I see a lot of that supplier to supplier relationships that develop at our sessions. And everybody kind of learns from everybody else. So yeah, let's take a step back and get into a little bit about the history. So talk about when you started as in a buyer role.
Right. So I was supporting and partnered with a Kroger organization, in-house with Kroger. And this probably goes back close to 20 years ago when we went to our first ECRM. And we were looking, and I remember at the time I was doing really exciting categories. I was in the food space, and we were looking at rice and beans, we were looking at pickles and salad dressing. And you know, we thought of ECRM, and by the way, entirely private label, right? That was only our focus. The team that I was on, the team we were attending, a private label food show. I think the first one was in maybe Tampa, Florida, if I remember correctly. And it was just so successful because there are so many opportunities to meet suppliers, albeit you're getting 10 or 20 minutes with these people, right? So you're not solving any problems, but you're getting exposed to what's innovation, you're getting exposed to new suppliers, you're learning how to diversify your supplier base and seeing what's new and innovative out there. There's just so much, if you go with an open mind and you're not trying to get from A to B, you're just trying to understand what's out there. ECRM is a fabulous tool as a potential buyer.
You know, you bring up a point that I think is important because some buyers, they'll look at the list when we're putting the list of appointments together. They'll get the list in advance and they may knock some people off the list. And I think sometimes that could be a mistake because I hear again and again from buyers that, you know, they kept a meeting on their schedule. They weren't sure if it was going to be relevant, but then all of a sudden they found something that surprised them and they needed it.
It was crazy thing even happened at this show, right? So someone came in 100% looking for branded solutions. We are 100% a private label supplier. And we're having a conversation about an innovative solution. And they're talking about, it just opened their eyes to something in the industry that they didn't know. And that was something that they wanted to explore. So as the seller, you know, I'm being able to create credibility with an individual who's in the industry. God knows those of us that have been in it 20 years or more, we're going to bump into each other maybe in sometime in the next 20 years. So I'm making a good impression with somebody, and that person invested 10 minutes and they learned something new about the industry that they didn't know. So every appointment, I think, brings value. And the investments are relatively small. You're talking 10 or 20 minutes. Could be long days, don't get me wrong. Could be really long days, and you do want to have some selectivity to what you're looking for. But coming with an open mind is essential to getting the most out of the show.
Yeah, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And like you said, it pays to build the relationships because long term, and most of the people, from what I've seen, it's a very incestuous industry. You end up bouncing around. Even me, myself, I've been in the retail CPG food service industry content-wise for 30 years. 20 as a trade media editor, and now, you know, doing content for ECRM. And I'm seeing the same people, but in different roles.
It is really amazing how people come around. And I will tell you, as a private label guy, that's kind of my background. That's where I started. That's where I am. It's my expertise. It's even smaller. Like some of the people I was with today are people that weren't quite with me at that first ECRM, but they were probably at my 4th or 5th ECRM event 15 years ago.
Okay. So yeah, small world, and it pays to keep those relationships because you don't know where somebody's going to end up, and maybe you can't work with them now, but down the road, something happens and you're in a position to work together.
Absolutely. And those branded buyers don't think private label can't bring innovation. We do a lot of innovative work. A lot of us are doing co-manufacturing as well. So we're innovating with our branded and our private label partners.
Gotcha. So as wearing your buyer's hat,
yes,
what recommendations do you have? Let's say there's a new buyer who's going to be participating for the first time watching this. What would you recommend to them in terms of how to best prepare for one of our sessions and how to get the most out of it?
Yeah, I have to go back to where I was, you know, quite a few years ago. But I know what we used to think about when we came to an ECRM is we had a priority list of 2 or 3 things that we were absolutely positively needed solutions for, right? And then we were always open to see what innovation, what new was out there. And just like you don't want to walk in a room and that person not know your organization, you should do a little bit of homework in terms of who you're meeting with beforehand. You should look at the suppliers, understand what their specialty is, you know, understand, you know, if you have a clear elevator pitch, you want to understand what their elevator pitch is before you walk in, so that conversation isn't so awkward when you first sit down, you know. But it's really helpful if you go in saying, I got these 2 or 3 priorities and I'm going to share those with everyone. I want everyone to know this is my pain point, this is my solve, I need a secondary supplier for this, I'm looking for an innovative solution here, right? But then you got to have the open mind. You got to be ready for getting that one thing that you didn't even know was out there, and it's just going to blow your mind. I mean, we have come to ECRMs, and within 2 years' time, we have completely changed. When I was inside partnering with Kroger, we completely changed our packaging form for our rice and beans. We completely changed our ingredient decks for our pickles and some salad dressings because of things we saw and learned at ECRM that were innovations that we thought would bring value to our consumers, our customers.
Great, and I think in doing that, you actually more efficiently do the meetings because you kind of level set expectations at the start when you meet with the brand.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, this is our goal, this is what we're looking for. Then the conversation is in the context of that. So it's a much more efficient conversation. And then you can leave some time for like, okay, what else you got? Or
Absolutely. You wanna be open. You wanna say, hey, this is what I do, right? I buy this. Do you have anything in my space, right? And then, hey, what innovations you have across a more wide spectrum, right? And give them the opportunity to share what makes them different, right? So we're going to talk about the seller.
Yeah.
It's extremely, if we can pivot to that real quickly, it's extremely important as a seller at ECRM to know how you can differentiate yourself. You do have a very finite amount of time, and you don't want to just spew out 10 minutes of information, right? So you want to sit down with that individual, you want to ask them, engage them, be a person to them. How's your day been? How many RCRMs have you gone to? Are you looking for anything specific, right? So you're going to ask them what their pain point is, and hopefully they're going to share with you, right? Hey, we're really looking for this. And then that could either take you down the road or you say, hey, we don't do that, right? But we'd really like to share with you just what makes Radiance Living different. We source domestically. Our nonwovens are 100% viscose, right? So we're not sourcing from overseas. So if you remember one thing from this event, when you think about Radiance Living, think about our domestic sourcing, or think about 1 billion pods, because that's a pretty significant number of pods, right, that we make. So we want to lay those groundwork. You're just leaving that tick of information, because quite honestly, whether you're a seller or a buyer, the days go by so fast, and you're meeting so many people, and you're doing your best job to take notes. But this is the thing, whether you're a seller or a buyer, follow-up is essential.
yes, it's all in the follow-up.
It's all about the follow-up. You are not closing deals. You're not buying anything. You're not making things happen in ECRM. You're initiating the process. And it takes... And you know what? You're learning information. I learned about bids that I didn't know were out there, which was really fantastic. Shame on me for not knowing that bid was coming. But sitting down with the individual and saying, hey, we're working on a bid in this space. We'd love to include you. So those opportunities are fantastic. But they're also sharing that information with 10 other potential vendors. So I've got to make sure I'm following up with that buyer. Hey, remember we had a conversation, you were talking about getting on the bid, want to make sure we get the NDA in place, whatever we need, and to move things forward.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's, you want to get something out of every meeting, both sides, and it may not be a deal, but it might be information.
Yes.
And that information will help you run your business better, or a better product development, or a better approach to the marketplace on the seller side. The buyer side can learn a lot too.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's important. I liked what you did about level setting expectations in the beginning, because I've heard stories of some buyers right off the bat saying, and not in a bad way, again, transparency is really important, where they would just say, listen, I'm not interested in those. So that's actually not a bad thing for the brand, because what they're doing is they're saying, okay, don't waste your time on those, spend more time on these.
Absolutely. The more candid and transparent you can be, the better off this experience ECRM is. And quite honestly, I want to talk to you about the culture of ECRM, because I think there is a culture on both the buyer and seller side. There's a collaborative effort, and there's a real spirit because you're like speed dating, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
So you want to get to the meat of it really, really quickly, but you do that with a certain amount of transparency, a certain amount of urgency, and a certain amount of desire to find that partnership between supplier and buyer better than any other event I've ever attended. Better than trade shows. You go to trade shows, people are very defensive. Very few people want to engage in a trade show, and you really have to try and grab them to come to your booth. It's nothing like that. There's a level of engagement, there's a level of transparency, there's a level of a desire to really get to what do you do? What do I need? Do we have a fit? Do we have a fit today? Maybe we have a fit 6 months from now, a year from now. What makes you special? What makes your need unique? And getting to that with a really positive spirit. And you know what? It's not just the meetings too. You go to lunch, you're networking with other suppliers, other buyers, you're meeting with people. Everyone comes to these events in a really good mood. In a real collaborative spirit. And part of the reason I've been doing ECRM so long, and maybe I'll go a year or two without one and getting to one, there's a certain energy that's in the ECRM, a certain kinship that I don't see anywhere else, any other event.
You're absolutely right. And I've been to, it's definitely high triple digits by now, 11 years. I'm probably going to 50 or 60. Don't forget, we batched them together.
Yeah.
So like this week is 4. But
Okay.
I'm on the road 15, 18 different different trips, multiple sessions a trip. So it's in the hundreds, several hundred sessions. And you're right, it's that family kind of spirit, or that spirit of collaboration on both sides. I think part of it is physically everybody's together for the 3 or 4 days. You're networking together, you're hanging out together, doing the cocktails, or if we have a off-site dinner or whatever. But and people get to know each other really well. So you have the meetings. Transparency is important. Nobody takes offense if someone's direct and says, look, that's not for us, we don't like that for this reason, this is what we want. You got to get to the point. You don't use the meetings to talk about your family history, about how, we started this on a farm 100 years ago. No, that's not for the meetings.
No.
That's for the breakfast, lunch, dinner, cocktails. And we provide those opportunities, and that's where you dig into it. But when you get to the table, it's all about efficiency and everybody getting that value from it. And we try to give everybody the tools to prepare on both sides. And that's another thing is, and maybe when you were a buyer, 15 years ago, we didn't have as many tools, but we have so many tools on the ECRM portal to prepare on both sides. How do you do that? And we can blend the buyer and seller, because you're right. It's really two sides of the same coin. Both are happening at the same time. A lot of the best practices cross over.
Absolutely. And it takes that level of engagement on both sides to make a successful meeting and to lead into really what would be a successful follow-up, right? So, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, and I sound like a commercial here, but the people that work for ECRM make it so easy on either side to get to where you need to go. They are so helpful, they're so encouraging. So I think the environment that ECRM creates, and it's the people along with the tools, along with the attendees, pre the event, all the coaching that you can get as a supplier, as a buyer, the homework that you do in advance. I mean, doing your homework, knowing who's going to be sitting across from you as a seller, and them walking in and not asking them, so what do you do, right? Because you don't have the time for that. And B, you wanna say, okay, what do you need? I know what you do. I know how many stores you have. I know where you're located. I've looked at your assortment online. I have a pretty good idea of what I think you want to buy, right? So you wanna prepare for all these meetings, and it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. I could spend 20 hours preparing for 30 or 40 meetings. I'm probably spending 30 to 40 minutes taking notes per meeting that I have. But investing that time makes that 10 minutes that I get or 20 minutes I get that much more effective.
Yeah, I love what you said. It's not about what you do, it's what you need, right? You should already know what they do going into it on both sides, but what you need is the solutions. It's like, that's how can I really solve your problems? And, you know, and again, it's collaborative because the buyer, there's so many situations that I hear about where a brand is meeting with a buyer and they're not a fit right now. But in the discussion, that's where it comes out, okay, well, how do we become a fit? And what do I need to do to my packaging, to my logistics, to whatever, so that when I see you next time, I come to you and I solved all of those issues and now you're a fit.
Absolutely. And seeing someone a second time in the ECRM, or, you know, as a salesperson, life can be very challenging. You can get a lot of unresponded to emails and voicemails, and getting 10 minutes in front of somebody makes the next phone call, makes that next email that much more effective. Now, it is, don't get me wrong, it's an investment in preparation, it's an investment in coming and attending and participating in the event with the right attitude, the right fit. But the payoff is so exponential if you do the follow-up, if you do the pre-work, if you have the right mindset going into it, and you do that follow-up work. And that follow-up, you know, they are coming, let's put ourselves in the buyer side. They're coming out of ECRM having 50, 60 meetings potentially, right? There's probably 2 or 3 things that they said, you solved our problem. And there's probably 2 or 3 innovations that they said, hey, we want to get that. And there was probably 10, 20 other meetings that they had that they said, you know, this is really interesting, just not today. So as the seller, you don't want to, and there's only so much bandwidth, right? Because they go back to their job, they just missed work for 2 or 3 days, you know, they got making up to do. So it's not that they're not interested, and it's not that they don't care or they're not passionate about what you have. It's just got to fall in the right time when they have the bandwidth to do it. So sometimes a follow-up is, you know, 6 months later, you're talking to somebody that you met at an ECRM, and trust me, this happened not too long ago. It was 4 months after an ECRM event when they responded to a call, and they said, oh yeah, Mitch, I remember meeting you, and I really liked X. You know, we just haven't had a chance to go down the road. Why don't we schedule a call, right? Why don't we schedule an appointment now? You know, and then you get the hour, and then you really can talk about capabilities and really investigate things, get much deeper in things.
Yeah. And you can even throw in that family history thing. You know,
that's right.
Yeah, because you have more time.
Yeah.
And follow-ups. Before I do want to jump into the follow-ups, but the thing you mentioned before about, you know, all of the people and stuff, and I used to have a tagline that I would use for ECRM, where it would just be people, process, platform.
Okay.
Right, and that's what makes it all work.
Yeah.
Right, you have the people are such a essential component of it, because we have people everywhere making it run. You have people behind the scenes that nobody knows about here, that are doing travel, that are doing scheduling, that are, you know, handling all the IT work. You got the freight people that you know, the whole freight team, making sure all the brands, products and setup stuff is waiting for them. So there's so many moving parts, but doing it 31 years now that ECRM's been around, it's like a seamless machine. So big kudos to the whole team and the account managers, the salespeople and all that. But those are the people everybody sees. But freight and IT, they don't see. They don't see Tracy, who does the flights for the staff, for some of the buyers, you know, and the schedulers who actually set up all those appointments, which is a ridiculously detailed.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the logistics of ensuring that you get the right appointments. And, you know, it's not always perfect the first time around, but the best part about it is you can go out to your local ECRM, the person at the end of the hallway, who's there to help you, and say, hey, you know what, this person isn't on my appointment list. Do you think I can get this appointment? Or the seller, you know, isn't there, but I walked by their booth and I was really impressed by something I saw out of the corner of my eye. Can we get 10 minutes with them? And they're so accommodating that they're able to move things on a dime and get appointments added literally for the next day.
Yeah.
Right? So the desire to get the most out of the investment is unequaled.
And you don't miss a meeting. You don't, and our buyers will not miss a meeting. Like, you go to an expo and things like your schedule at the end is squashed because things get late or delayed or something. You get segued, and then all of a sudden you miss a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Here we have, so he was referring to the client service representatives. They're the ones that they'll knock on the door, make sure your meeting ends and starts on time, and so they're on hand for everything that you need. But what's cool is if a buyer, for some reason, maybe the elevator broke down or something, and they miss a meeting, we will reschedule that meeting, because every brand gets every appointment on their schedule, no matter what, barring an act of God or something.
Well, the interesting thing was a lot of us, we're in Dallas, Texas. The weather has been really horrendous.
A lot of delays.
Everyone's plane was late. Everyone got delayed. And the amount of juggling in order to ensure that we got all the appointments we were supposed to as a seller, and those buyers were accommodating. Everybody did every single thing they could to get the most out of it, and the amount of last minute just making things work is really something special.
Yeah, we had one time there was hurricanes several years ago where Tracy worked hand in hand. So Tracy does our travel. She worked hand in hand with the account managers and the schedulers, where the buyers that couldn't make it, I mean, she was fielding them to other airports and then renting them cars so that they could get, and then at the same time, the schedulers were moving their meetings from the day they missed to the end of it so that nobody missed the meeting. Yeah. And 75 buyers were rerouted during that time, and nobody missed anything. So it's we do everything so that you get the most out of every single minute that you're here. Which brings me to the next part, because it doesn't all happen while you're here. So the prep goes on before you're here.
Yes.
Then you have the meetings and the engagement, and there's a lot. I also want to get into the networking and stuff. But then you have the follow-up, and the follow-up is where it all happens. And you should have a plan for it. We do help you tech-wise, where you can earmark the meetings with stars and which ones most important to get to, then secondary, and so on and so forth. From both a buyer's perspective and the brand perspective. So from the buyer perspective, like, what kind of things did you expect from the brands in follow-up? And then, flip the hat over,
right.
How do you approach follow-up in your role now?
So as a buyer, you're getting hit with a lot of things, but quite honestly, you're able to, at ECRM, to touch samples, right? So that's really big. The sellers are there, they have samples of their products. Sometimes it's something small, you can take it home with you, put it in your bag. A lot of times you're going to want them to send it to you, right? And it could be a lot of stuff, and you're traveling, so you ask them to sell it. So it's critical that you follow up and ensure that you get the samples to the buyers that want to buy them, and the buyers want to get those samples. They want to request them, they want to get those samples. So that's first and foremost, right? Because you need to physically touch it. And a lot of times you want to share it with other people in the office and say, hey, I saw this new packaging. It is really cool. Do you think it's cool, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing here?
So it may be the number of samples you request has got to reflect that too. If you're going to share it with other people within
absolutely,
companies,
you could be really specific. Hey, I need 3 of these, or I want to, I want to take this to leadership, or whatever your situation is, right? So timely following up with that, and as again, on the buyer side, right? You're coming here. There's 2 or 3 solves that you're going to find. There's 2 or 3 innovations you're going to be wowed by, and there's probably 10 or 20 other people that you're really interested in, right? So you'll ask for those samples, or maybe you'll say not now, right? And you do have to budget your time, but it's on the supplier.
Yeah.
It's on the seller. The seller has to get the samples in your hand. They have to follow up. They have to engage you. They have to remind you, hey, we saw ECRM. You seemed really interested in this. When would be the right time? You tell me, when is the right time to engage on this?
Very important. Whatever the buyer says, that's what you follow. Use the buyer as the guideline.
Yeah, right. They'll tell you. And you know what? Sometimes, quite honestly, in our world, we work with a lot of bid schedules and a lot of reset schedules, and they might have already signed a contract for the product that you supply, and they have a year before they'll be evaluating again. that doesn't mean that meeting wasn't effective, right? Because it saves you time from pursuing things that you know they're not going to evaluate for a year. That being said, I'm still going to check in every quarter to see if something changed.
Keep the momentum
respectfully,
going.
right?
Yeah,
Respectfully remind them every quarter I'm going to touch base.
And you could do it passively too. I mean, do it in a way that just send them an email. Listen, we got a couple of updates. Just wanted you to be aware of.
Yeah.
Something like that. Not saying, hey, can we get in there? No, a couple of updates. Here's something new about that happened with our company, whatever. And then another way to do that, I always recommend, is connect with everybody you meet with on LinkedIn. Yeah. So this way you can post stuff about updates about your company, and it's a very non-intrusive way to stay in front of the buyer, because you connect with them, they'll start seeing things in your feed, and then this way you're still in front of them, but in kind of a passive way.
Yeah, right. If you know what their time frame is, they're not going to start evaluating for a year. It doesn't mean you don't reach out to them, but you don't expect them to engage back, right? You're just, hey, I got this new innovation. I want you to make you aware of this. I'm going to be at this event. You're going to be there, that kind of thing. And you do it quarterly, respectfully. But after a year's time, then you have permission to engage. You have permission to say, okay, it's time to have this meeting. We invested in being in ECRM together. We've reached out. You know who I am. We've had contacts. Recognize my name. You recognize my face. Let's sit down. Let's plan a date to sit down. And 9 out of 10 times you get that appointment.
Yeah, because you already had the face-to-face. That face-to-face opens up a lot of doors, because now the electronic communications afterwards, they know who they're dealing with. They can picture you. They can picture your products. And a lot of times they appreciate if you bring your email to the top of the chain. Because if they said they're interested, even if it's not right now, well, it's not a no. It's not a no at all. And I've had, and I do this a lot, curious to hear from you as a seller. When I talk to brands, a lot of times I ask them, tell me your fastest deal and tell me the one that took the longest, right? I'll do a little clip, tale of two deals. So you tell me, in your experience as a supplier, what was the quickest deal from the point where you met with them at the table to the point you were on the shelf, and then which one took the longest to get to those points?
Oh my God.
You don't have to name the retailers, but just,
No, I will tell you, I'm in private label, right?
Yeah.
In private label world, a quick deal is 18 months from first meeting to shelf. And I've had things get on the shelf within a year of the first meeting, which is obscenely quick and doesn't happen very often. We formulated an innovative burger topper with a partner, and from the first meeting to the time the product was hit the shelf, it was over 4 years.
Wow, okay. Yeah, and that happens because of some of the things that he mentioned before, like maybe they just put something else in, they're not even looking at it, or markets change, buyers change desks. I've heard of people, they landed a deal, the buyer loved it, the buyer got promoted, the new buyer didn't like it, then that buyer left, another buyer came in, put it on the shelf 2 years later. Had another one where the guy chased somebody for 6 years before he got it on the shelf, but by the same token, he was having a conversation during a dinner, and a buyer overheard him and put it on the shelf within 6 months. And wasn't even a meeting with the buyer. It's just during the cocktails, the buyer overheard it. So, patience and persistence, I think, is two superpowers for any brand, because that's what it takes.
It absolutely takes it. Patience is key. Persistence is key. But I think because everyone comes to an ECRM with the right mindset, if you approach it the right way, it almost is guaranteed success.
Yeah,
it really is. It is an investment. It takes prep work, it takes follow-up, but you're laying the groundwork for some really great opportunities on both sides of the task.
Yeah, definitely. So the last thing I want to talk about is the schmoozing part, the networking. Because I think there's a lot of value there, both in with the buyer to seller relationships, but also the seller to seller relationships and partnerships that come out of that. So in your experience, how, what have you seen? What has come out of networking functions? When I say networking functions, I mean everything outside of the formal meetings, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, cocktails, or you just happen to be getting coffee and they're getting coffee at the same time. There's serendipitous meetings that happen so much at these things.
Elevator rides.
Elevator rides.
Elevator rides. I will tell you, running into people in the elevator, hey, how's it going? How's your day? And what do you do? What do you do? You have that elevator pitch ready, because I'll tell you, having the elevator ride before the meeting, oh my God, it's like, oh, I remember I saw you on the way to the gym, and I saw you on the way to breakfast.
Gym is another.
Oh, yes,
yep,
for sure. Yeah. Okay, and quite honestly, I'm a Heineken Zero drinker, right?
Okay.
So I do get into the schmoozing part of it.
Yeah.
But ECRM does make it extremely accommodating for, God, anybody's needs, your dietary needs, your drinking, whatever you like, chances are they're going to have something for you, and you never go hungry.
Yeah. Oh, no. The food at this place was exceptional. And
really good.
But yeah, I love that. I mean, the elevators and that's where... if you had the meeting with them already, it's really easy to spot them during lunch. Hey, how's it going? Do you mind if I sit here? And that's where you start talking about the other stuff. Get to know each other as people.
Everybody comes, and this goes back to the meetings, but everybody, I think, comes to an ECRM, whether a seller or buyer, with a real positive attitude and a willingness to engage. We're all here for the same thing, right? We're all here with the same objective, and whether you're sitting down with another seller, oh my God, opportunity to talk to people from Toronto. I talked to a gentleman from Greece, right? And I just spent the night in Athens, so
cool.
It was really fun over dinner talking about being in his country, and he was so excited to hear my stories of visiting, and some of it is it's okay to be social. Yes. It's okay to have a little bit of fun at this, right?
Yep.
So. It's an enjoyable experience overall. I will tell you, the days are late. I'm not young anymore. I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock.
Yes,
so I'm not a late nighter. There are opportunities for late night people. 20 years ago is a different story. I took advantage of some of those late night events. Right now, I'd like to get to breakfast by 7. Engage. But people are just super friendly, super engaging. Those in between, I mean, you might not get somebody on your appointment. I'm a seller, right? And someone says, I'm not buying your category this time, or I'm under contract for their category, so I'm not interested in meeting with you at this. And they have a limited bandwidth too, right? They have a limited number of hours. And ECRM will always tell you, well, look out for them at a social. Try to sit down with them at lunch. Oh my God, sat down at lunch with somebody who said, "You're right. I'm not doing your categories, but hey, I'll be happy to give you Susan's contact information, right? Or I'll forward over your contact. Give me your business card. Here's the name of the person you need to talk to. She couldn't come to the show, or for whatever reason. It's just so collaborative.
Oh yeah, and then you've partnered with some suppliers,
absolutely,
from that too, and always talk to other suppliers too, because you never know what's going to come out of that.
There are lots of suppliers. Everybody's looking for line extensions, looking for new ways to get in, looking to hear about the innovation that you have. Supplier to supplier engagements. We've had some appointments with supplier to supplier type engagements as well as part of the co-man part of the show. Are extremely valuable. Mostly done informally. Sometimes, the person in the booth next to you,
you just start BSing, and that's it.
And you have no idea where that's going to go.
And that's I've heard of a lot of partnerships happening from that. But then also it's a way to get good intel. If you're talking to somebody and they're with a buyer who you're looking to work with, you can learn a lot about what should I bring to the table. Do they like slide presentations? Do they want numbers? Do they want, are they a Mets fan? I mean, it's just, you get to learn about the individual buyer themselves by talking to other suppliers that do business with them.
Call out to the Blue Emu guys. I'm a huge Johnny Bench fan. And they're going to get me an autographed ball.
Okay.
I'm geeking on it. It's like crazy. But it's really funny how much coaching and support there is from your fellow sellers. zero. I mean, and by the way, in my business of nonwovens, there are plenty of other nonwoven organizations here. There's a real collaborative effort.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business to be going around, a lot of opportunity to share and collaborate and partner. We each have our own strengths. We each have our own angles on how we do business, and finding that right fit with the sellers is really something everyone's out to do.
Awesome. So to wrap up, it's basically I get the sense that ECRM works for you, but you have to work ECRM to get the most out of it. It's not like you just show up. You have to put in the work.
Yes.
But if you do it consistently, things will happen.
100%. And you know what? We make it out like you're going to get as much out as you put in. You could show up and still be extremely successful.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. The prep work will accelerate. It will put what you do and just put it on steroids, right?
Yeah.
So the amount you put into it to prep, to prepare, to follow up just makes ECRM that much more effective. But you've built a tool that even just showing up as a seller or a buyer, you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
I'm
Excellent.
convinced.
Awesome. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you, and thanks for dropping all of that knowledge from both sides. So, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.